Good evening and welcome to the Congo Hour. I am your host, WAYNNA Dobson, along with...
All right, TRIPPI, I want to thank everyone for joining us. We have a very, very special...
I know.
Informational.
So yeah, can you tell?
I can. I mean, I'm going to be nice, though. We look great.
First of all,
you look great.
My hair is in, you haven't seen me.
No, I just
Remember,
said you look great.
Last week.
I said you look great. Just say thank you. We can't
TRIPPI.
fight. We have a live studio.
It doesn't matter.
We have a live studio audience.
Are.
We can't fight tonight. No fight.
Then it wouldn't be us.
We're going on Facebook Live.
I got it going on already.
Okay. All right. So you want to let everyone know who's coming on tonight?
Oh, my pleasure.
All
so
right.
Our first interview is going to be with Mr. Bob Young and Linda. I don't remember Linda's last name because I didn't get it. I apologize. So it's the Kappas and the Deltas coming together for a Black History event.
Okay.
And then we have Dr. UMAR Johnson coming on.
That's right.
Can you tell me excited?
I know. I can. I think everybody is.
I know.
We have like I said, we have a live studio audience to just to liven things up a little bit. They're gonna have some questions for Dr. Johnson. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah.
Greg Morris is gonna come on and help us co-host on the second part of the show.
And my buddy Big Ive is going to work the crowd. He was here last week with me.
I know he was.
Because you didn't come.
Yeah, he's great too at what he does. So
He is.
anytime he can come on, it's definitely a blessing for all of us. So again, we want to thank everyone for watching. Towards the end of the show, we're going to have our community news. We're going to have our funeral announcements. And are we going to open up the phone lines, WAYNNA?
It depends on the time.
Okay. We might be able to open up the phone lines. And for those of you who may not know who Dr. UMAR Johnson is, I wouldn't even feel right trying to...
Right.
Yeah, so I'm just going to let him introduce himself. And he's here to talk about the preschool to prison pipeline in America. And so we're going to get some specifics about Delaware. That's why we wanted to have our locals here so they can ask how we can not only get information from him, but like form a plan of action. I think that's most important.
And we talk about that all the time.
Yeah, we do.
A lot of people talk, meet, march, and all of that, but never execute a plan.
Right. So we definitely want to get some suggestions from Dr. UMAR about what we can do. Like I said, I'm sure he's going to give us a boatload of information. He's going to give it to us straightforward. If you've never heard of him, again, you might want to briefly just YouTube him. He's an awesome guy, and it's just an honor for him to come to Wilmington. He's going to be here next Saturday also at the Pal Center, but I'll let him talk about that.
Okay. So I want everybody to grab, if you're like me, grab a pen and your journal or something so that you can take notes when he comes on. You ready?
All right. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Good evening and welcome back to the Congo Hour. We hope that you are as excited as we are. We have Dr. UMAR Johnson on the Congo Hour. And I think for the very first time we have a live TV audience. So,
yes, we do.
Dave, if you could pan into our, can we get our audience?
We can this way.
Oh, we can on Facebook,
Yeah,
but can y'all clap for us so they can, that's what I'm talking about. And we have Big Eye on the mic that is going to work our audience. And we have our friend Andre Wright on camera. He's going to be taking pictures. And we have the beautiful Sister Freeman, which everyone knows here in Wilmington, Delaware.
Sister Freedom.
Sister,
renamed you Freedom.
I'm sorry.
She renamed you.
I didn't rename my girl. And then we have the beautiful turquoise here with us as well. So thank you all for joining. And we have our new host with the mostest.
We wanted to bring Greg on because he brings another element. He's an educator, so we wanted to hear his his perspective as far as what Dr. UMAR is going to talk about and what you've seen firsthand yourself.
I appreciate it.
You've always done a great job on the show. So I want to thank you, man, for coming back. Appreciate it.
You,
all right.
So I know TRIPPI feels a little weird because
for
the first time he's holding his phone because everybody's Facebook living for those that don't have Comcast Channel 28, so we get people from all over. But let's hurry up. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Do you want to go first? Because I'm too excited.
I guess I got a call from Turquoise last week, and she was saying how Dr. UMAR Johnson wants to come on the show, I was like, hold up.
He's like,
Like D? Yeah, I was like, D doctor. So I like Googled it. I was like, is she talking about? I thought she was like trying to trick me.
like you play on, like you play people. Okay.
I was like, you talking about D Dr. Umar Johnson? She was like, yeah. He wants to come on the show. I was like, of course. Let's cancel some people.
So if y'all got the text message, I gotta cancel y'all. Now you see
you can
why.
blame you can blame Dr. Johnson over there. So, but no, seriously. I mean, I don't know who doesn't at least appreciate what he brings to the table as far as education and again, I don't even know how to even introduce you, honestly, brother. And so I'm just gonna let you introduce yourself.
Sure.
And again, I just want to thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Dr. Umar Johnson. I'm a doctor of clinical psychology. I'm also a school psychologist, a certified school principal, a child therapist. I'm author of the book Psychoacademic Holocaust, a blood relative to Frederick Douglass, founder of the Black College and Consciousness Tour for 11 to 17-year-old young black brothers and sisters, and also founder of the National Independent Black Parent Association. And as you can see, I'm joined by Sister Freedom, who's the host of the event that I'll be speaking at this Saturday at your Police Athletic League, 3 o'clock. So we want everyone to come on out. That's 3 o'clock this Saturday in honor of Black History Month. And I'm going to be talking about the preschool to prison pipeline. And I have to thank Sister Freedom because she was responsible for all 3 of my previous visits to Wilmington. So had it not been for her, Wilmington would not know who I am. And next to Freedom, we have Sister Turquoise, who is actually going to be chairing the chapter of the National Independent Black Parent Association here in Wilmington, and she'll be heading up that study group project. So these are the 2 ladies I work with in your city.
all right, yeah. So we definitely want to thank you, Turquoise and Freedom, for doing everything that you've done. You have a vision. I know you definitely, Freedom. You've been on it for years. She's been knocking on, kicking.
Don't stop getting
She is definitely an advocate for us here in the city of Wilmington. So I want to thank you for what you're doing and congratulate you, Turquoise, for getting on board and bringing all your talents to the table.
I told you I knew people.
He's not the only person who knows somebody.
That's right.
All right.
No,
So, on Dr. Umar, you said you want to, I guess, give people a taste of what you're going to be talking about in depth on Saturday.
When we talk about the miseducation of black boys, as a school psychologist and as an administrator, I always have difficulty accepting the public narrative on black boys.
Okay.
And the public narrative basically suggests that black boys fail because, number one, they're not interested, or their pants are sagging, or they listen to too much gangster rap, or the mothers are unmarried, or the fathers are incarcerated. Now, clearly, all of those variables do have an influence on the struggles of black boys in school, but they are not primary or critically related to why black boys do not succeed. Number one, you cannot talk about the proper education of black boys if you don't talk about teacher racism. And in particular, in America, 93% of our teachers are middle-class white females. That always gets left out of the conversation on why black boys fail. I like to say that black boys suffer from a double jeopardy because on the one hand, they're black. So there's a whole narrative that goes along with that. And then they're male. So there's an additional narrative because public education is one of the only institutions in America that is dominated by women. Now, the administrators may be male, but the classrooms are run by females. There's nothing wrong with that in and of itself. But when a white female is responsible for the education of a black male, there's a lot of expectations, assumptions that either come up or don't get met. And so what's often called a black boy issue really isn't a black boy issue. It's a white female teacher issue. But black boys are often made the scapegoat of a system that is not properly designed to educate them. And then in that comes the 2 weapons of mass destruction. On the left hand, you have special education, created by an act of Congress in 1975 that allows you to take boys out of the classroom and subject them to a separate education because somebody perceives that they have a learning disability. Perceive. Because you cannot prove it. As a school psychologist, I've evaluated thousands of children. You cannot prove a learning disability. It's an opinion that we make based off the paperwork in front of us. It's no science to it. There's some science, but the conclusion is personal. And so you have black boys being labeled as retarded, who are not, reading disabled, who are not, emotionally disturbed, who are not, And then, of course, the biggest weapon of mass destruction, the so-called ADHD, which I conceptualize as ain't no daddy at home disorder. Ain't no daddy at home disorder, ADHD.
That's good.
85% of black boys diagnosed with this don't have their fathers in their life. When do we get ADD? 1980. Is that a coincidence? That's the same decade that crack cocaine came into our communities, which sent thousands of fathers off to prison, leaving the mothers at home to raise boys on their own, something no mother should have to do on her own.
Right.
And when the discipline lacks off, rather than attributing that to the true cause, which is fatherlessness, the American Psychiatric Association comes in, viewed by the publicly funded Wall Street drug companies. And they say, wait a minute, let's not blame this on fatherlessness. Let's blame this on a mental illness. So they created this thing called ADHD that cannot be proven to exist, that is now hooking millions of black boys on the same drugs that sent their fathers to jail.
When you say the same drugs, explain that to us.
Ritalin is the #1 most prescribed anti-stimulant in the world. Ritalin, according to the Drug Enforcement Agency, is a Schedule B drug. That means it's just as addictive as cocaine and opium. And it is classified with cocaine and opium by the DEA. Ritalin is synthesized crack. It is only one molecule away from cocaine itself. And so it's contradictory and hypocritical for a society that claims to have a war against drugs. There's millions of black men in jail for what? Non-violent, drug-related offenses. So this drug that sent his father to jail for 10 years, you can give it to his son. But as long as you call it Ritalin, Adderall, Concerta, Strattera, Vyvanse, it's perfectly legal. So the same drug that locked up daddy can be given to daddy's son long enough for him to learn about Christopher Columbus.
Wow.
Does this drug that you're talking about, does it hurt them as they grow up and try to have children? Can it affect them in some way? Remember I asked you that. Can it affect them?
When we look at disruptive behavior disorder medications in general, the research shows that some of them do have the ability to affect a boy's long-term ability to procreate, which should not be a shock because cocaine can affect your ability to reproduce yourself. So naturally, Ritalin, being a derivative of cocaine, can also affect the child's ability to reproduce. It can also cause psychosis, schizophrenia, tic disorders, diabetes, heart problems, liver and kidney failure. Okay, in fact, I often come across a lot of boys who are suffering the side effects of psychiatric meds, which can lead to a loss of control over your executive functions. Executive function speaks to your ability to walk, talk, control your chewing, your saliva, attention, focus. And some boys are even losing their ability to control the drool out of the sides of their mouths, not to be vulgar, losing the ability to control the urination process, where they're urinating on themselves. I've had students who are outside playing basketball, and they began to defecate, not even knowing that this was going on while they were playing basketball, because it erodes your ability to control your own brain. And if you go to the website of any drug company, they tell you what the side effects are. They're listed, except they say that this has rarely been seen, but they can occur.
Wow.
Does it hurt females in any type of way? Have you ever did some females?
The same side effects that we see in boys, we see in girls. The only difference is that boys are 4 times as likely to be diagnosed and prescribed the medicine than females, which is a good point, because a lot of people say, well, you're always talking about the boys. Why don't you talk about the girls? Well, the girls go through the same thing. But the reason I focus on the boys is, well, #1, I'm a male. And then #2, the war against black boys is 50 times stronger than the war against black girls. When you look at emotionally disturbed diagnosis, it's almost exclusively a black boy thing. When you look at mild mental retardation, when you look at the ADHD diagnosis, conduct disorder, when you look at full-time special ed, when you look at high school dropout, alternative school, juvenile delinquency, I mean, every index of childhood pathology, the boys significantly outnumber the girls. So we're not leaving the women out. It's just that we're focusing on the population that needs it the most.
Okay. All right. You want to go see if anybody in the audience?
Yeah,
has
we're gonna
anything?
we're gonna see if anyone in the audience has any questions for
Or
Dr.
comment.
Everybody still in awe? We're gonna,
Come here.
hold on 1 second. Yeah,
What's going on? I am blown away right now, you know, and I think just like the audience is blown away too. This is a great conversation. I think this is a conversation that Wilmington needs, and maybe just not Wilmington, but everyone needs to hear about this. So, sister, what's your name?
Winter McCain.
Well, thank you for coming, Ms. McCain.
Thank you.
And your question for Dr. Johnson?
I don't have a question. I've just been watching him on YouTube a lot, and it's coincidence or not coincidence that I'm seeing him today, and he's speaking on what me and my girlfriend always talk about, what we want to do in the community and go and help the kids. So we just getting our resources together, and it's just a pleasure to be in his presence and listen.
Awesome. So, Doc, let me ask you this. Like you said, her and her girlfriend want to get involved in the community. How would you, what would your advice be to help her and her girlfriend to get involved, to start getting involved,
certainly.
or even the males here to get involved?
Everyone. The first thing, come out Saturday, because I'm going to be teaching so much on this topic. I would say bring all the parents you know who are having issues with their children, even parents who are not having issues with their children, even people who are not parents who care about our children and the future of the community, which is our children. They should all come out Saturday, 3 o'clock at the Police Athletic League. The second thing I would say is we would like for you all to join the Wilmington chapter of the National Independent Black Parent Association that Sister Turquoise will be heading up. There's 7 committees in the Parent Association. There's a special ed committee to fight against special ed abuse. Too many black kids are put in special ed unnecessarily. And one of the reasons that is done is not only to get them out the classroom, but also because schools get paid.
That's exactly
special
right.
ed is a welfare check.
Right.
Special ed is a hustle. I know, because you don't go to special ed unless you come past me. The school psychologist, we're the gatekeeper. I have to put a label on that kid in order for him to go to special ed. And my toughest fight, and I'm going to have this fight tomorrow at a school in Philadelphia, my toughest fight is when I know nothing's wrong with this child. He simply ain't been taught. ABT, not LD, ABT. A lot of our boys have been given a poor primary education. Pre-K to 3rd, they haven't been given their basics. They show up in 4th grade, and the teacher is looking at him like he must have a reading disability because he's 2 grades behind. No, it's not a reading disability. When he was in the 1st grade, he didn't get the instruction that he needed. In kindergarten, he was suspended from class so much, he wasn't in there long enough to learn. In 2nd grade, he had a teacher straight from University of Delaware, hypothetically speaking, not to hit at the university, her 1st year in the classroom. She's just now learning how to teach. So his reading skill development took a hit because he has a teacher who really hasn't mastered the skill yet. So there's reasons to explain away the learning disability. But guess what? When the school is getting paid for putting them in special ed and the parent is tired of the phone calls and they tell the parent, if you sign this piece of paper, he'll go over here and you'll never hear from us ever again. And if we send you to the psychiatrist and get some of that Ritalin, that Adderall, now he'll be Frankenstein all day. You don't have to worry about him and we don't have to worry about him. So everybody benefits from this process except the child. And special ed is the school to prison pipeline. Special ed is that, because if a black boy can't read, by the time he finishes the 4th or 5th grade, there's a 75% chance he's going to spend some of his adulthood in prison if he can't read by the time he's finished the 5th grade. Well, here's the question. If you get put in special ed in the 4th because you're reading on a 2nd, and in special ed your instruction is slowed down deliberately under the assumption you can't keep up, what are the chances of you graduating on grade level? You're making a prisoner. The school has become the incubator for the mass incarceration system.
So you mentioned something a couple of minutes ago, that schools get paid
Yes.
for
Subsidy. Every child in special ed comes with a subsidy. You normally get it once a month at the end of the month. Sometimes it's quarterly. And it's normally twice what the regular education students get. So for example, in Philadelphia, regular education students, I think, get like a $9,000 state per pupil subsidy. So once they go in special ed, they're not worth 9. They're worth 18. You can go up to New York City where each child is about 12,000. So putting one of them in special ed, they're worth 24,000. So if I'm getting all this extra money from putting kids in special ed, why would I ever want to take them out? What is the special ed budget for New York? What is the special ed budget for Atlanta? What is the special ed budget for LA? What is the special ed budget for Wilmington? How many people are paying their mortgage because our sons are sitting in the classroom subject to an inferior education with a disability they never even had?
I want to ask, and I apologize, I want to ask you this question because you're an instructor in college. Do you see the difference between black females and black males their first year of college?
Well, I teach at the University of Delaware as well. I'm in the Black American Studies Department. And one of the things that I saw in my last semester was had a number of my students say to me that I was the first black instructor that they had ever had.
Your whole life.
Wow.
Elementary, junior high, and high school. I never even considered that when I took the job. But because of that, I remember talking to my mentor when I took the job, and he said to me, now that you're here, meaning the academy, your subject matter is going to be the least important topic in your class. He said you're going to spend more time dispelling myths simply because you show up every day prepared, and it's going to dispel a lot of myths that people have about you preconceived already.
Wow.
It makes a difference in all students
Wow.
across the
I think we
board.
have a question from from somebody in the audience.
Okay.
I'm here with Meshach. Meshach, how you doing, bro?
Fine, thank you. How you doing, brother?
Don't touch me.
Don't touch it. Don't grab it. Don't set it. That didn't sound right. Let's start that over. I wasn't touching his mic. But anyway, first and foremost, just want to give our appreciation, Dr. Umar, for you coming to the community to provide some sort of guidance. To be honest, the wave of violence that Wilmington is currently experiencing, we need stronger minority leadership. So you taking the time out and addressing, us and what you're going to do Saturday is sincerely appreciated. So my question is, I know that we're referencing the pipeline, education to incarceration, and you've been labeled a prince of Pan-Africanism. Can you explain a little more about the concept of Pan-Africanism and how it can combat that pipeline that we're talking about?
Certainly. Good question. Pan-Africanism, I would say, is the black man and woman's oldest formal political ideology. And Pan-Africanism, summed up in 3 points, would be number one, that all African people are members of one human family. So whether we're in Wilmington speaking English, if we're in Toronto speaking French, if we're in London, England speaking the Queen's English, if we're in Jamaica speaking Patois, if we're in Nigeria speaking Igbo, no matter where we are, we're one family. So that's number one. Number two, we identify on the level of family first. So being an African is more important than our membership in any other organization. Being a Mason is not more important than being an African. Being a Christian is not more important than being an African. Being a Muslim is not more important than being an African. Why? Because the only thing you belong to that God chose for you is your racial group membership. Everything else is superficial, which means it can be changed. You can leave the church tomorrow. You can leave the mosque next week. You can give up the Masonic Lodge. You can give up your fraternity and your sorority. You can give up your professional association. You're African until the day you die. God puts you in this community. And so for us, being African is primary. Also, when you look at our challenges that we face as a people, it is our Africanity that is at the basis of that. See, we're the only people in the world who don't rally around culture. We're the only people in the world who don't use their culture as a fence to keep people out who are not interested in adding something positive to it. You look at any other community in America, Chinese are very protective of their culture. European Jews are very protective. Arabs, East Indians are protective. African Americans don't have that pride and protection that we should when it comes to our cultural reality in Malou. And so that's Pan-Africanism. And I would say the third piece on Pan-Africanism, we believe that as the African continent goes, so goes all African people. So that is to say that one of the reasons why Black America are still stuck in our civil rights quagmire is because we haven't connected our struggle to the international struggle. See, no one gets more respect than their international homeland. Chinese get respect wherever they go because China gets respected. European Jews get respect wherever they go. Israel gets respected. East Indians get respected wherever they go because India gets respect. And Africans, wherever you go, I don't care in Jamaica, I just came back from there, okay? London, getting ready to go back. Toronto, I'll be going to China for the first time. Everywhere I go in the world, I don't care where it is, name the country. And I promise you that you do not control the economy. You do not control the political structure. You do not control the schools. You do not control the economics. Nowhere on earth are Black people in control of their economic destiny. And so we say, we all rise together or we don't rise at all.
My question to you, Doctor, is why don't we protect our culture? And how can we start from today?
Well, number one, we have been multiculturalized out of common sense. And what I mean by that, we're the only people who feel insecure about saying, I'm for my community first. Everyone else can do that, but you can't. Any black person who says that I'm for black people first is automatically castigated as a racist. Okay? But you will never set foot in the community center of certain other cultures. Never. You would never participate in the religious processes of certain other cultures, but they're never considered racist because black people are not present. But when you don't have them present in your reality, you're considered a racist. So we've been made to feel insecure about being unapologetically African about what we need to do. But here's the situation. If you don't become unapologetically African, you may not survive the 21st century. I mean, let's look at it. We got out of slavery in 1865. We've had 3 50-year periods since 1865. We're beginning the 4th 50-year period. The first 50-year period was 1865 to 1915. So from the end of slavery to the rise of the Marcus Garvey movement. The second 50-year period was from 1915, Marcus Garvey, to 1965, Dr. King. And then the third 50-year period was from Dr. King until 2015, which I would consider the era of black complicity, okay, and the era of black negligence. These past 50 years, we have done more disservice to ourselves as the people than at any other time since our arrival in America. We are more selfish than we've ever been. We are more lackadaisical than we ever been. We are more materialistic than we ever been. Less spiritual fiber than we've ever had. I ain't talking religion. I'm talking spiritual fiber, which could be religious. And now we're in the start of our 4th 50-year period, 2015, okay, which is going to take us from 2015 until about 2065, which will be our 200th year anniversary since the end of slavery. And it don't look good because black people are so insecure about who they are that we're trying to be everything but who we are, failing to recognize that you cannot hide. Everyone knows an African when they see one.
That's good. On that note, we're getting ready to take a break, but I wanted to read something from Dr. Umar's book, and it's a quote from a teacher, well, not a teacher, but it says, "I'm not a teacher, I'm a warden for future criminals." And that was Jennifer O'Brien, who was a former New Jersey first grade teacher. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And not only that, we just had a situation in Baltimore 2 months ago, and members of the Parent Association went down there where a teacher put on Instagram pictures of her black students and called them the N-word, hood rats, every deplorable term you could. She was not suspended or fired from the job.
I saw that.
Okay? Also, I know of at least 3 teachers who have called their students the N-word in class, not let go either. Why? Because there's nothing in the teacher's contract with these school districts, okay, that make it wrong for a teacher to call a black child out of their name. Now, if the child would have done that to the teacher, they would have been shipped out. But you have white teacher privilege, where you can basically get away with disrespecting black children all day long. Why? Because the black community isn't organized enough to stop that. And that's why we're starting the Parent Association, because we're going to organize parents school district by school district all across America to show up and show out. They do what they do to our children because they know we're not coming.
Wow.
So, yeah, we're going to take a quick break.
Yeah.
We're going to do our funeral announcements, and then we're going to come back with Dr. Umar, and we're going to talk about some of the solutions that you have for us, Doc. Okay? All right, we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Channel 28. Tonight is simply amazing. We've got a lot going on. Dr. Umar Johnson has definitely blessed us with his presence, but most of all, telling us the pipeline from preschool to prison and what we can do as individuals here in Delaware. So I actually have a quick question from the audience. How you doing, brother? And can you say your name?
I'm doing great. My name's Clifton Skinner.
All right. What's your question for Dr. Umar?
I have a question. I want to thank you very much for showing up, first and foremost. I watch you on YouTube, and I listen to a lot of what you have to say. I'm curious on a few things, but I'm going to try to make this short. So I totally agree with the 80s because I lived through that era. I'm a 70s baby, but I lived through the 4-finger rings, the 22-inch rims, the speakers in your back,
the Benz 190s,
the caps, unicorn, Apple, all that. So I lived through that, and I also, I'm from a family of that. but I've uprise. You know, I went to Dell State. I graduated. I have a background in accounting. I'm a real estate agent as well. But I seen all that. I'm from a whole list full of junkies, but I uprise. So I seen kids, even in my family, on the Ritalin, the 80, whatever that stuff is. I seen all that. I'm curious to know. I'm also a real estate agent. I missed that. It's a little PR too. But I'm gonna tell you why I keep saying I'm a real estate agent, because I have the privilege to meet different levels income of families. So I have the privilege of going to different levels of income, families with different level of income. So we're talking about homes selling for $50,000, a family in a home of $50,000, a family in a home of $250,000. Then I'm up in Hocassin, Greenville Overlook, selling a home or helping the family buy a home of $700,000. Okay, black families. Okay, and they all have children. And it's unfortunate, but there's a difference when I'm sitting at the table and I'm going through a consultation on what to do with this property. In a home, in some homes, I'm gonna say some homes where the families' homes are $50,000 and the family homes are $250,000, and then the family homes are $700,000. So I'm sitting there listening and I'm observing and I'm seeing how the families and I'm seeing how their children interact with, you know, with a real estate agent there or a person different entering the home. So I guess to say that, to make a long story short, when you're speaking and we're talking about change in our community, like I would like to know, like, who's your target audience, because I just don't believe the people in the hood, the poor people who don't have much means, have the ability, the huge ability to change this whole stratosphere what we're going through. So I believe that the people who are at the elite have the ability to change by pumping resources back into the community. So I hear you speaking with much enthusiasm, but I always just want to know who you're actually talking to help with this change in this.
Good question. My answer would be the target audience is the whole community. It's those on the bottom, it's those at the top, it's also those that are in between. Going back to your point of wealth, one of the biggest things I see, and I'm coming from the psychological side, we're probably the only group in America, the only cultural group who does not believe in intergenerational financial planning. Black folks, whether we poor or rich, we do not plan
That's right.
for our grandchildren's
That's
success.
Right. That's right.
We plan for ours and maybe our children's. But being a therapist, I end up working with white families, European, Jewish, Latino, all types of people come to therapy. And one of the biggest differences I notice between us and them is they don't consider themselves to be financially set unless their grandchildren's grandchildren are set. So if you ask them, are you wealthy? They don't answer it from a first person perspective. In order for them to tell you that they're wealthy, they must feel that they have enough assets in order for their grandchildren's grandchildren to eat off of their estate. That's not us. We're selfish. We think about ourselves and we think about the next generation. And then when you look at our financial statistics as a people, they're absolutely horrible. We talk about Wilmington, Delaware, the educational outcomes in Wilmington. Well, guess what? We spent $600 million on McDonald's last year, nationally. Black people spent $2 billion on Air Jordans, $4 billion on alcohol, $9 billion on weave and perm for 1 year. With that type of money, why doesn't every child in Wilmington have the prerogative to attend, not a charter school, because they're still public, but an independent African-centered school? Every city in America should have an independent African-centered school. We spend more at the supermarket and on our feet and on our body than we do to put information in our children's heads. Now, there's certain institutions we can't control. You cannot create your own criminal justice system. You cannot create your own legal system, but you can create your own school system. So it's absolutely unacceptable for our boys to be going from preschool to prison when they live in a community that spends $9 billion on hair, or $2 billion on sneakers, or $4 billion on alcohol. So I say that to say this. Before we can have any other revolution in the black community, political, economic, family, you got to have a psychological revolution. Until black people change the way we think about ourselves and our future, nothing else changes. Because you can take the slave out of slavery, but only the slave can take the slavery out of himself.
Jesus, before we go on, Trippie and I, we definitely have to thank Councilman Sam Guy for allowing us to go over. He's always gracious when we need extra time. He reminds me of Miss Dottie Neal. Miss Dottie Neal be like, y'all go ahead. So we want to thank you so very much.
Yeah, and after we're finished, we want you to stay tuned because Sam Guy is coming on.
Yes.
He has some very important topics that he's going to discuss. So after our interview with Dr. Umar, please don't change the channel. Stay tuned for City Councilman Sam Guy.
Okay.
So,
go ahead.
Dr. Umar, so what are some strategies to get where we need to get?
Got you. Couple things. Number one, I think that because being in your position, city council, the state runs the school, not the city. Okay, but there's some influence there. I think on the city level, we need to influence the state and the local school district to embark upon a major black male teacher hiring program. It has to be an initiative. If there's one thing we could do to change this, cut special ed, cut ADHD, cut Ritalin, cut dropout, cut gangs, cut juvenile incarceration, give every black boy a strong black male teacher. That's it. That's it. But the reason that never gets discussed is because public education is so dominated by European females that the teachers' unions, I'm going to call it like I see it, the teacher unions are a major barrier and obstacle to us giving our children the type of education that they need. Because their best interest is in making it as easy as possible for their teachers. So it's a conflict of interest. And the reason we don't get a lot of educational innovation, quite frankly, is because a lot of elected officials, federal, state, local, they're afraid to take on the teachers' unions. That's why we saw no major change under Obama. You're going to see no major change under Trump. You don't get a lot of educational innovation because elected officials are scared of the unions. Why? You're talking about teachers. It's the largest union in America. You have more teachers than you have almost anything else, maybe police. But after that, it's teachers. And they give billions of dollars to campaigns. I mean, they have a lot of muscle, so people say, I'm not touching that. That's why you've never seen a real movement to make teachers accountable for academic achievement in the classroom, because the unions are not going to go for that. Anybody who tries to run on the campaign of making teachers accountable for achievement, they will lose, because you will not get the votes or the money from the teachers' union. So number one, give black boys black males. That's number one. Give them a father and a teacher in one, because the fathers are not there. 75% of our kids are being raised by who? Single parent black mothers. They can't do it on their own. We got to help them out. Put a father in the front of that classroom and those boys will break their back to please you. It's not hard to educate black boys, but the reason people try to make it hard is so they can introduce programs that come with lucrative contracts. In other words, black boys need a special learning program. And guess what? I have it. Pay me $10 million and I'll come to Wilmington and I'll teach all your teachers how to teach black boys. Black boys don't need no special program. They can learn the same way white boys learn. It's not that they need to do anything different. The school district needs to do something different. So number one, give every black boy a black male teacher. I'll give you two more. Number two, bring the industrial building trade programs back into the high schools. One of the worst things that happened to the inner cities beginning in the 70s, and this was on purpose, this is how they laid the groundwork for mass incarceration. They went into the high schools and took out the plumbing, the electric, the carpentry, the auto mechanic, the cosmetology, the computer networking, the chef, the woodworking. My grandfather and many of your grandparents lived a decent life without a college degree because they knew how to use their hands. What happened to the trades? They took them out in the 70s to make sure you couldn't earn a decent living, so you would have to sell the crack that will get you locked up. Everybody don't need to go to college. We got 2 million African Americans with master's and doctorate degrees right now, unemployed, cannot find work. Some of our children should go to college, but they need an alternative. And that alternative is to put them back in the industrial building trades. Now here's the question. Who's blocking that? Guess who's blocking that? The white-controlled labor unions in every major city. They do not want the trades back because the way it is now, they control who gets trained, they control who gets hired, they control who gets the contract. So the major opposition to putting the building programs back in the schools are the white racist labor unions that every city has. Give them a black male teacher and give them a skill, you cut this whole school to prison pipeline problem in half.
Wow.
So go ahead, Greg.
I worked at a high school for 4 years, and what you're saying is exactly right, because even the males that were in the school that weren't teachers, they were the most popular instructors, administrators, for that reason in a lot of cases. The pragmatic side, though, is as a father and a husband, for example, the starting salary of a teacher in this day is not competitive to where a male would be able to safely take a job like that and then be able to not only have a fervor for education but also be able to protect himself and his family. Teachers should be some of the highest paid people in the community. Why is that not so?
Well, good point. Number one, America doesn't value us educators. Number one, it's a cultural issue. But in some school districts, the teachers are well paid. For example, I've done work in Lower Merion, which is where Kobe Bryant went to high school. It's one of the most expensive school districts in the country. But here's what you can do. If you cannot afford to pay your teachers a competitive salary, there's other perks you can give them. I know of school districts that give you a tax abatement, help you find homes. There's all types of other things you can offer them. But guess what? For black males, I don't think they care. If you say, listen, we need black male teachers, and this is all we have to offer, you have unemployed brothers out here with no prison record, with a bachelor's degree, who would break their back to get into that school and give back to the next generation. They just need the opportunity. But the school districts will lie and say, we can't find no black males. I know you telling a lie because I got thousands of resumes on my phone. You want some black male teachers? I have them at your doorstep 8 o'clock in the morning. They don't want them in there because black men are not going to sit by. You, I, and any of these brothers, we're not going to sit in a school and watch a racist mistreat our sons and not do nothing about it. You can't be there so they can do what they want to do with our children.
Dr. Umar, on that note, if you would be kind, because we have to get ready to end, if you would tell our viewing audience where to come see you on Saturday.
Definitely. Which camera?
You can look right
here.
Yes.
Shout out to Wilmington, Delaware, the whole state of Delaware. Dr. Umar Johnson will be here this coming Saturday, February the 18th at the Police Athletic League. Doors open up at 1 o'clock.
Yes.
And we getting started at 3. This is Sister Freedom. She's the host. Sister Freedom, what's the phone number they can reach you at?
They can reach me at 302-525-9633. 302-525-9633. For any vending or
opening
any questions.
acts.
Yes.
And you want to come out. Children 12 and under are free. Elders 65 and older are also free. Tickets are just $10 online. And we got Sister Turquoise here. She's going to be signing up parents for the Parent Association.
And
See
she's
you
going to be
Saturday.
assistant
Thank
also
you
with the
very
event.
Indeed.
We want to also thank our Big Ive, open
Yeah,
good
gotta thank
our
everybody.
live audience. Can y'all give Ive a and G. Lloyd Morris, thank you so very much for coming on.
Again, we want to thank City Councilman Sam Guy for giving up his time.
yes.
Please do not change your channel. Stay tuned for Sam Guy. He always has some.
All
I
the
wish he could have
time.
been a part of this panel.
Yeah, you better not
But Sam Guy is awesome. I want to thank you, Sam. We're going to close out right now, and God willing, we will see you next Sunday.